Words are about to be spoken here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, presented to you exclusively by Podcast Heat and AdFreeShows.com. I, of course, am Jon Alba, joined as I am for the final time in the year 2022.
Crazy!
By the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. This is it, brother. We're ringing out the year in style here.
We've been around a year. Huh. It's been a year, says the net. I mean, how crazy is that?
It's been a year. I'm waiting on that tweet for you come January 7th. By the way.
You know it's going to happen. You know it will be there. I love that. I love acknowledging my history. Yeah, it's crazy, man. And it really has flown by. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's been a year. It has flown by. It's crazy.
This year has been full of plenty of ups, plenty of downs, but certainly never short of adventure, to say the least. Plenty to be found. And we are doing it big the next couple of weeks. This week, we are doing the first ever Hardy Awards. Matt is going to be given his best of 2022. And then next week, we are going to be reminiscing on a year of the extreme life of Matt Hardy as we celebrate our 1-year anniversary.
When they reminisce over you, my God.
It feels surreal, but, you know, we got that Emmy Award back there. We'll be handing out some awards here. What would a Hardy Award trophy look like, hypothetically?
I would imagine it would probably, if it is for the Matt Hardy side of the Hardy Boys, it would probably be somebody with the Hardy Boys representation signal here, and also the V1 representation signal, and a yelling face. That's what it would look like, I think.
I love it. I love it. Last week on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, we aired our Omega panel, which a lot of people really seem to enjoy. Any bow tie you'd like to put on the Omega panel there?
It was really cool to see, you know, because we kind of broke from the norm of our typical podcast. So it was a lot of fun to do that. I really enjoyed that. It was so great just sitting back and catching up with those guys and just like conversing and having an honest conversation about the days of yesteryear. So it was a lot of fun, man. And I think people really enjoyed it because Omega, once again, is something that is kind of like an urban legend. You know, it's the stuff of myth that people really haven't seen because like it was a different time, you know, and stuff wasn't captured as much then, you know, but they got to learn a little more about it. So I thought that was very cool and very educational.
Listen, I stand by this. I don't think we've seen the last of Omega. I really do believe there is a time and place where we will see Omega running regularly again. I really do believe that.
I can see that.
How far away from that are we? Who knows? Could be several years. But I know you're always thinking about what's next.
Right.
With all the streaming opportunities that exist out there right now, you're very in tune with independence and what's hot and what's not. I think there's another run for Omega somewhere in the cards.
Yeah, in 14 plus years, Barty will be 18. So I'd say maybe 14 plus years, we'll see it. I'd have a whole base to build around.
That's fair. You could build the promotion around. It'd be like the Von Erichs in the South.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm gonna be Fritz Von Hardy. You know, I'm gonna be ready to rock and roll and push my kids to the moon.
Oh, that's great.
Fritz Von Hardy.
That's your next gimmick.
That's great. Yeah,
that's your next gimmick, man. That's another entity that we might see at some point here in AEW. Fritz Von Hardy.
Another version of Matt Hardy. Yeah.
Another version of Matt Hardy, like the $530 version I saw in the store the other day. Holy shit, man! You are a valuable asset. Look at that.
That Chase figure is very hard to come by, and I've seen. I had one person that had me sign it for them, and I said, "Oh, how much did you pay for this?" Like I said, "Did you find this in the wild?" Or did you order it? And I've only found one person that found it in the wild, which is amazing. But one person told me they paid $1,800 for it, which is like, whoa.
We're talking about the limited edition Damascus figure.
Yes. Yep. It is technically called a Chase figure. You know, there were 500 printed, and someone paid $1,800 for it. It was just a huge figure collector. That's like mind-blowing to me. So I definitely wanted to take my time on the signature. I wanted to make sure it was right, and I was going to give them everything they wanted on it. Crazy.
Take that, all you FIs who say Matt Hardy's not valuable. At this store, he was $530 worth. At this particular collector, $1,800. How about that? Pretty insane. Speaking of those Von Erich kids, the Hardy kids, Do you guys have a good holiday? Good Merry Christmas there?
It was great. It was great. Myself and Queen Rebecca, we got through another Christmas. There were no botches. Botch is such a word that didn't exist like back in the day. It's such an internet word that like is now in the lexicon of pro wrestling.
Yes.
Right? But there was no Santa botches. You know, we got through it all, and everything was done right. And the magic of Christmas still lives in House Hardy. So it was so much fun to see the kids get up. Especially we rounded them up in the room. I made sure they had their pajamas on so we could take pictures and video and everything else. And said, okay, get your pajamas on. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Then I open the door. And I'm sure I'll put out the video sooner than later. So they like run downstairs and they run, oh my God, yay, look. And just to see everybody going nuts with all these presents. It's the most magical feeling in the world.
Which of the kids is most into the whole Santa gimmick?
It's tricky, but because I think it's Maxwell. Like, but because Rebby was very worried about Maxwell getting smartened up to some degree. You know, now he's 7.5. You know, he'll be 8 in 6 months. But like as far as the elf on the shelf, and there was a little reindeer he delivered. He said you had to take care of, and Maxwell would hold it super tightly every night, and the reindeer somehow escaped from his arms, and he was a little sad about that in the morning. But he was like all into it, and he knew it had to be good because the elf was watching, and like all he wanted to do was go to bed that night. Like it was 7 o'clock. He said, "We should go to bed. We should go to bed. We should go to bed. I don't want Santa to miss us. We should go to bed." And they actually had a little call with their cousins, Nera more than Ruby because she's a little older. But Nera was going, "Oh my God, I've got a tracker, and right now Santa is in Iceland, and he's going to be here in probably 2 or 2.5 hours." And Mike said, "We got to go to bed, guys. We got to go to bed." So like he was all in on it. You know, he'll be the first one that kind of breaks it down and gets it eventually. Obviously, Barty loved it. Wolfie likes it a whole lot now, but like Maxwell really understands it through and through, and he's still in the realm of bereavement. So he's so much fun to share Christmas with.
He's in on the kayfabe. I like it. I like it. There was also a new rule per Queen Rebecca about the holidays. Would you like to share what that rule is?
Yeah, as we were exchanging Christmas pleasantries, she said, and remember, John, there's no ho-ho-hos in House Hardy.
And I said,
ho-ho-hos.
And I said, the ho-ho-hos, they're everywhere.
The ho-ho-hos, they're everywhere. Can you dig it, sucker?
I like that we've stolen his 5 Cinco 5 Cinco 5 gimmick too.
He never said Cinco though.
No, he didn't say Cinco, but
we made it new.
That's true. Well, we made it new because we wanted to find a way to get our fans of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy interactive with the show. And I promised you guys, if you sent us your 5 Cinco 5-star reviews on this post-Christmas edition of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, we would be giving away a t-shirt courtesy of boxofgimmicks.com. There are several Extreme Life of Matt Hardy t-shirts. And Matt, we're going to be giving away a t-shirt to someone who is sure to leave us a 5 Cinco 5-star review every single week, and that is our pal Brad Wise. I know Brad every single week is up in our DMs with a review. Any well wishes to Brad as he receives his free t-shirt courtesy of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy?
I mean, first and foremost, Brad, thank you for supporting us. Without people like you, there would be no us. There would be no The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy with Matt Hardy and Jon Alba. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. And there are a lot of people that are very loyal and supportive of our podcast that we know each and every week they're going to tune in. They're going to leave that review. And we're so thankful for you. And we want to continue to build on that. I mean, I feel like every time I've ever done anything and found success in it, it's been kind of like a grassroots movement. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And we've grown so much in a year. And I want to thank each and every one of you for that, especially you, Brad.
Yes, and Brad, so all you got to do is just DM me, slide into them DMs at Jon Alba, and pick out a shirt, boxgimmicks.com, find one from the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy store that you'd like to purchase, and we'll make sure that we'll get that sent to you, send your address and size as well. And we do these giveaways all the time, guys. Make sure you're following us on social media at Matt Hardy Pod, at Jon Alba, at Matt Hardy Brand, and you can get involved in these because I'm sure 2023 will see giveaways galore as well.
Yes.
Lots of fun, Matt. Great time with the holidays, and I'm always liking this weird down period between Christmas and New Year's. It's just such a weird, strange.
It really is.
Period. You spent 12.5 hours of it, 13.5 hours of it traveling this week, but I'm glad you are in the Denver area for AEW Dynamite. And I think we should get our award show underway here. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. One thing I do want to say, I'm almost sad because it's been since the pandemic happened. It's been so long since I've been to Denver. Last time I was here was
Oh.
WWE, obviously, but Denver is such a beautiful place. As I was driving, even during the nighttime, I could see a little bit of the mountains and whatnot. It's such a really beautiful place, and it was so nice last night. And I wish I had. I wish I could spend time here. This might be a place where I'd like to bring House Hardy and spend a week at some point. But Denver's a really, really beautiful place, and I'm really excited to be back here.
Well, their football team ain't doing too great right now, so AEW can hopefully bring some holiday cheer to them because Lord knows Russell Wilson ain't doing so. So we are going to take a look at some of the best of 2022 on this edition of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. But before we do, I must ask you to please hit us with our final Matt fact of 2022.
Matt fact, Matt is a subpar gift wrapper.
Kindred spirits there, my friend. I cannot wrap a gift for the life of me.
Well, let me tell you who I'm in competition with.
I was going to say.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about it. I got so the gifts I had got her and I got the kids and myself and the kids. We did a lot that was like from the boys to mama or from the boys to the girls, and I'm wrapping all these presents, right? And I'm just like, she like cuts them and takes time, but she still does it fast and they're flawless. And mine are like all bunched up and like taped and like not even. It's so not symmetric at all. And it's
they're
like
extreme.
they are extreme. They're bowling shoe ugly, I guess you would say. And like in the big scheme of things, they're decent, but like I'm just so blown away by hers. Like all of hers are like insanely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I was sitting back and I was like, that's definitely a Matt fact. Matt is a subpar rapper. And and that's perfect, and it also goes along with the current season.
Yes, yeah. Well, you live with a professional holidayer.
Oh,
so
exactly.
that's stiff competition. Yeah. Speaking of Matt facts, around this time of the year, I enjoy going back and watching some old Royal Rumble matches, just because it's the season and gearing up for the Rumble. It's always one of my favorite events. And I was watching the 03 Rumble last night, and that is where Matt strongly dislikes mustard. Is from, and you stumble on the way to the ring because you're all hyped up and excited and you get in there. And I made a decision with our 2023 calendar, Matt, because it's going to be the 20-year anniversary of that. I think you and I are going to go back and watch that entire Rumble match because you are a pretty central story to that Rumble match. And I had forgotten how big of a role you play in it. You're in there a long time. You have several major spots dedicated to you. So I think in about 3 weeks' time, you and I are going to watch the 03 Rumble start to finish. And we'll break down how a Rumble match is put together and hear about some different stories from some guys that maybe we probably wouldn't talk about otherwise on this podcast. So I think that's going to be something fun to look forward to.
Well, hell, outstanding. Yeah. That sounds great. I'll tell you too, like I've never really went into detail with that. So there was a little a carpet that they had set up that was raised about an inch higher or whatever. And I did come out and I was super high. I was super hype and I was throwing up the V1 real big and my toe caught that as I was walking across and I almost ate shit, so I fortunately pulled it out. But it is so funny looking back because it was one of those things where I was super hype and I was doing it and it was just like, what are the odds that I rolled my V1 up and like I was so hype and it was right there with that carpet and my foot drug across that 1 inch raise. So I almost ate shit, but fortunately
it almost would have been better if you did eat shit because it would have fit the V1 pompousness even more so. But the downside would have been Vince would have replayed it 17 times on the broadcast.
Right.
So you would have been Titus World Slide there, if you will.
Titus World Slide.
That was nonstop. All right, man. So we've got several categories for these year-end awards, and I'll be giving some of my thoughts. We'll be getting your thoughts. We'll throw some nominees, and at the end of the day, Matt Hardy will decree a winner in each of these categories. So,
John, let's converse.
Let's converse. Let's start with, we got so many. Let's start with the biggest news story of 2022. We like talking about news on this podcast. We've hit on it from a variety of different angles. There are probably 3 or 4 that really come to mind for me. For you, what stands out as some potential nominees here?
I mean, something that rises above everything else, I think, is just Vince McMahon being gone from WWE. I mean, Vince, you know, voluntarily stepping down, I think takes the cake because, honest to God, knowing Vince as well as I do, I mean, obviously I'm not his best friend, but I worked with him for many, many years, and I dealt with him on a personal level many, many times. I figured he would run WWE until he died. That is why I guess with Vince. So I think Vince kind of being forced to leave WWE and step down is the biggest news story in my book.
Certainly a lot to pick from. You could very much include Cody making the jump over to WWE at WrestleMania, which was
story.
Huge in every facet of the industry. We had Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out of WWE, and now it seems like Sasha is New Japan bound. Maybe someone that could end up working with you guys in AEW at some point. Yeah. What do you think, as a quick pivot here and aside, what do you think bringing someone the caliber of Sasha Banks into AEW, whether it's for one match or an extended run, what do you think that would do for the company?
I mean, it'd be a huge deal, especially even if it's for one shot or for a limited amount of shots, whatever it might be. And Sasha is she's done a great job of like being able to maintain all of her equity. She's kept herself in the news. She's kept buzz on herself by doing all these different various activities and almost being like a crossover mainstream star. So yeah, it would be huge for AEW.
She's going to be a big time crossover star at the end of the day. And she's already well on that path. The Mandalorian she was involved with. She is reportedly filming some movies, and she's just such a great wrestler. And I think her wanting to go and wrestle in New Japan speaks to her love for the game, if you will. And doesn't hurt that she's got Snoop in her corner. Are you a Snoop guy?
I like Snoop. When I went through my big rap period, it's right when Snoop was breaking out. So yeah, I enjoy Snoop. I'm a fan.
I figured as much. I figured you would be. Yeah.
A funny story about Snoop real quick.
Snoop.
I would love to tell you. So whenever we did the deal where I was Big Money Matt and I officially signed Private Party into the contracts where I was going to charge them a wee fee to do the deal. So we were going to sign that contract that day, and Snoop happened to be on this show, and he was doing something in a match where he was splashing someone off the top rope or whatever. And Private Party had the idea, said, hey, you think we could maybe get Snoop to kind of be involved in our signing to it, like make it a bigger deal. And he was, if you remember, if you go back and watch that segment. And then they mentioned something to Tony about it, I want to say. And they're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, you have to ask Snoop. And they're like, Matt, will you talk to Snoop? Like, you know him, right? You've met him at WWE and whatever. And Snoop like keeps up with wrestling, and he knows wrestling, especially from back in the day. And Private Party was there and said, hey, what's up, Snoop? How's it going, man? I said, hey, I'm doing this deal where I'm like the bad guy, and I'm kind of like luring these guys into this contract deal. It's kind of like a shitty deal, kind of like I'm a big Hollywood person who's trying to get a big cut of their money or whatever. I said, would you be up for like playing a role in it, and even like, whatever you want to say, just organically spit your opinion. And he said, yeah, for one of the Hardy Boys, hell yeah, I'd do it. And Private Party said, oh my God, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, like he didn't know us, like we wouldn't even have got that spot with Snoop. So that was really cool. And it's funny because Snoop almost recommended them to sign the contract. So he was almost on the side of Big Money Matt as a heel, which is hilarious.
He gets it. Snoop knows.
Yeah.
Snoop knows. You're down with the dog. I like that. That's good stuff. Okay. So
wow. Yippee.
So Snoop's a good brother. I like hearing that. If Sasha were to come in, it could be very cool. On top of that too, obviously the Elite CM Punk situation, a huge news story in 2022. No dancing around that one. And I would even throw the Warner Media Discovery merger as far as potential long-term ramifications for what that could mean for AEW or Ring of Honor or anything down the line. There's a lot. So in your mind, the Hardy Awards going to Vince?
Yeah, in my mind, the Hardy Award goes to Vince. But I know we've had that discussion. Like, there has been an insane amount of major stories in 2022. It's mind-blowing.
On top of that, I mean, you could go, like, I didn't even mention here, Stone Cold Steve Austin returned to
right.
That's something that happened.
Yeah.
It's just one thing after another. I can't remember a year that was crazier than this. So why does the Vince story rank above the others, in your opinion?
I mean, Vince is the greatest promoter of all time. Pro wrestling wouldn't be pro wrestling as it is today without Vince McMahon. And Vince literally built this empire, and everybody was certain he would run this empire until he had no more breath left in his body. So it's a big deal. And especially, I think it's an even bigger deal because these scandals emerged, and Vince was forced to step down.
It's surreal in the sense that you can look at it like we always talk about what if, right? It seemed like WWE was very much heading down one trajectory.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a completely different trajectory with an entirely different cast of characters at top. And it makes you wonder, well, what if that didn't happen? What are we looking at right now?
Yeah. I mean, and also I think another point is Vince, he built this reputation, this myth, this presence where he is this untouchable figure, and for him to actually like kind of go down, so to say, it was like shocking news because he seemed like untouchable, like no one could do anything to Vince McMahon. It was Vince McMahon's show and you're going to do whatever he wants. And that's it. And no one can ever change that. And no one can ever touch him. But for him to be forced to step down more than anything else was a huge, huge story too.
I know that you owe a lot to Vince, and you're very grateful and thankful for the opportunities that Vince McMahon afforded you. But is this a good, healthy thing for the industry that he stepped away?
Yes, without a doubt.
Why?
Just it needed some young blood. We needed someone that was more with today's times and today's pro wrestling and with the more current fans. And I think Triple H is a great guy. Tony Khan is much more with today's, wrestling audience and sees things a lot more modernly like Triple H does as well. I mean, I think that's also something we need in politics, talking about that. People keep talking about, Biden's old, Trump's old. We need young blood. You need young blood. It's the cycle of life too. People have good runs, but nothing lasts forever. And even Vince, as a promoter, it couldn't last forever. And things need to change. Things need to be done differently. It's just like a wrestling character. You have to constantly evolve. You have to constantly change. And same thing goes for pro wrestling promoters as well. They need to change, and there needs to be new, young, fresh blood.
What do these massive WWE changes as a result of this do for the industry? How do they affect promotions like AEW and New Japan and Impact?
I mean, I think first and foremost, AEW was like the new upstart, and it was like the new cool hip thing, obviously. And that was great for pro wrestling because competition is obviously needed. Someone needed to push WWE to be better and do more. And now that Hunter had taken over and they kind of changed the game plan in a lot of ways, I think it just makes wrestling more competitive. Even like with New Japan, everything is a lot more competitive. It's like changing the style. It's changing what they're offering in many ways. And it's just like a different formula. You're not getting the same Vince McMahon formula that has been going on for 40 plus years or whatever it's been. So it's a good thing. And I think it makes the wrestling business healthier. I think competition's healthier when a lot of promotions are doing great things and they want to be, fans want to tune in to different shows because they're doing great things. That's very healthy for the wrestling industry.
We're talking our Hardy Awards 2022. Matt's dishing out the best of 2022 and some of the biggest. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Undoubtedly, Vince McMahon resigning from WWE is the biggest story. It's one of the biggest stories of the last 45, 50 years in wrestling. And anyone who thinks that anything is more significant than that is fooling themselves just because of the ramifications that come across the board. And there's a trickle-down effect of all those different things as well. Matt, let's move on to the talker of the year. So many great talkers in wrestling these days. I think it is really emphasized now that you have to be a well-rounded performer to reach the top. You need to be able to at least hold your own on the microphone, if not go beyond that. Mm-hmm. And we saw a lot of really impassioned promos from a lot of different people this year in professional wrestling across multiple companies. Who are some names that come to mind when it comes to nominees for the best promo in wrestling today?
The first person that really jumps out to me is MJF, man, especially because he's so young. He's like a prodigy. To be where he is currently right now and to be as great as a talker as he is in his mid-20s is just mind-blowing. So I'm going to have to go with MJF on this. And it was a big year for him. He finally realized top guy status in AEW and became the AEW World Heavyweight Champion.
I look across the board at different candidates that I could see in a category like this in the AEW realm, I think Ricky Starks has proven that he is one of the most impassioned and strong promos in all the game. Where, I mean, I feel like I say this every single week on this podcast, but like pro wrestling is at its best when the audience feels with the performer and they connect with them at that really intimate level and they identify with their journey. And I think Ricky Starks is unbelievable at captivating audiences like that.
He's had a great month. You know, his last 4 weeks have been really spectacular.
Yeah, I think, I hate to say this, I think your foe, Ethan Page, is one of the most underrated promos in all of pro wrestling. Yeah. That segment you had with him a few weeks backstage, where you guys just went at it with one another. Seeing that heat and that fire out of him was so desperately needed, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's undeniable. He speaks well.
You can never knock Paul Heyman, who always belongs on the top of the. Has Paul Heyman surpassed Bobby the Brain Heenan in your mind, or is Brain still just, because I feel like that's the most easy comparison to make? Brain and Heyman are kind of in that same category.
I think he has. And the reason why I say I think Paul Heyman has surpassed Bobby Heenan is because it's a different type of promo now. It's much more serious. It's much more based in reality. And like Paul Heyman is the master of that. Like Bobby the Brain Heenan was so witty. He was so funny and did things, but wrestling promos were a little more gimmicky then. And I really appreciate Paul Heyman's take and the way he does things and based in reality and his facial expressions, his mannerisms, his body language is just off the chart.
I would say the only argument I'd have for Heenan in that sense is that Heenan would get in the ring and do his whole weasel shtick.
Right.
I do feel added that just little extra lick of credibility when it comes to that swarmy heel getting their ass kicked and all that. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like Paul Heyman carries this aura with him. And the bloodline is so incredibly enhanced, in my opinion, just by having Paul Heyman there as a presence.
Absolutely.
I would throw Kevin Owens in that conversation as well for the best promos in wrestling this year. I think he's one of those guys where whenever he talks, you feel with him.
Yeah.
There's definitely quite a few that come to mind, but you at the end of the day are going with MJF?
Yeah, I think MJF's going to be my guy.
Okay. I thought his stuff across the board this year, promo-wise, was just exceptional. His feud with Punk that started last fall into the spring, with the dog collar stuff.
It's fantastic.
Really, and Punk deserves his flowers in that sense too, because Punk was the perfect person to verbal spar with him.
Yeah, no doubt. And Punk is a great promo on top of all that too. A great character. And you know, there's no denying that. Punk is killer when it comes to promo work as well.
As a promo, where does MJF stand all time? Is it too early to suggest that he is one of the greatest promos ever?
I think it's too early, but I think you're going to see if he can stay healthy, and that is one of the things that is, you know, a roll of the dice in pro wrestling. If he can stay healthy, he's gonna go down as one of the best promos of all time.
Well, Matt Hardy, I know a great way that you can stay healthy every single day, as a matter of fact.
Yes, sir.
And that's by hitting up our friends at Athletic Greens and picking up some of those AG1s, a proud sponsor of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. What am I talking about? I'm talking about one delicious scoop of AG1, and you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, all of those things. And Matt Hardy, there's no better way to start off 2023 than on a healthy note, is there not?
No, I would say make your New Year's resolution to start taking AG1s. It's what I do every single day. Before I do my cardio, before I work out every single day of my life, I hit my AG1s first thing in the morning, and it really supercharges my workout and supercharges my day.
And it costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health. It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than your brew habit that, let's be real, it's the holidays. I know what you're indulging in. I get it. This is way cheaper than that. It's cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin. I just took some vitamin D earlier today. It's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. And AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. Matt Hardy, this is like the time of the sniffles, isn't it? And I imagine as a worker, when you get the sniffles and you need your good cardio, that's got to suck.
Yeah. I mean, it's flu season in general. My kids were just sick, but I still cut it up, and I was with them all throughout the little flu season here. And AG1s, they protected me. They were a great shield, so I never got sick one time all throughout it.
Because you're getting that vitamin D and all those other good supplements. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different supplements and pills to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D. And for the last time in 2022, Matt Hardy, how many free travel packs with your first purchase?
5 free travel packs.
All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Hardy. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Hardy to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Let's go to the gimmick of the year, Matt Hardy. And before you declare your winner, I want to list off a few that come to mind for me in particular. I love the Blackpool Combat Club. I think the Blackpool Combat Club was something very different and unique in pro wrestling, and something that I definitely could get behind.
Yeah.
I enjoy... I'm not sold entirely on where the story is yet, but I did enjoy at least the initial presentation of the new Bray Wyatt character and taking a little more of a hybrid realistic approach to that.
Okay.
I like that. I like the role that Jamie Hayter has found herself in with Dr. DMD, Britt Baker. And by the way, big shouts to Jamie Hayter and Hikaru Shida, who last week on Dynamite I thought had one of the best women's matches in AEW history, if not the very best, let alone one of the best matches in Dynamite history. I thought it was superb. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it in full, but I just thought it was excellent.
I did. It was.
They crushed it. The Acclaimed Scissor Me Daddy Ass, one of the best gimmicks out there in pro wrestling right now. What are you going with for your gimmick of the year, my friend?
Yeah, those are all great nominees. And
the honorary Oos, Sami Zayn, I'd have to include that as well.
Yeah, I almost might have to pick 2 winners, because William Regal coming to AEW obviously was something special. And when he did the first thing with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley, and the Blackpool Combat Club started, and the momentum it built, it was a huge deal, and it was a great deal. And what a run it had this year, especially with Regal at the helm, and it's still going to be continuing as it is. That was definitely one of my favorite gimmicks, but it's hard to deny the impact of the Bloodline and the honorary Oos, Sami Zayn. That might be my number one. It really came into more relevance than ever this year with the Usos, with them bringing in Solo, Roman just killing it, Paul Heyman there as well, and then Sami Zayn just maybe gimmick of the year is the honorary Oos. He's just killing it on every level.
It's something that was very clearly never supposed to make it past a certain level.
Right.
Fought on in a way that I don't think anyone really expected, but isn't it such a credit to how talented he is as a performer?
Indeed. It absolutely is. I mean, it just shows how gifted he is, like on all levels, in every facet of being a pro wrestler.
It's one of those instances where when he comes into WWE, he's El Generico. He's in a mask.
Yeah.
It's a more one-dimensional character. And sometimes when WWE strips away those things that make a character unique, it can make them a little bland. But I think Sami Zayn losing that stuff has turned him in to one of the most well-rounded performers in wrestling, where everyone knew he was a great wrestler in between the ropes, but
right.
Him being allowed to show that, and I say this all the time, he is the Larry David of pro wrestling. It's so perfect, and it allows him to go to that next level.
Yeah, I mean, he is doing an amazing job. Big fan of Sami Zayn in 2022.
So let's piggyback off that gimmick then. I want to ask you about the breakout star or stars of 2022 because we saw a lot of people. I think you could argue Sami Zayn is in that category. Amazingly, this late in his career, he had this insane breakout in this role, and I still don't think we've even seen the last of it, truth be told. But a lot of great talent. Jamie Hayter, one of those people. Yep. Toni Storm had a really big year where she was able to show what she was able of doing. I mean, so many across the board. The Acclaimed certainly come to mind for me. Any other nominees for a breakout star of the year for you?
I mean, you name the two that I would go with. Mm-hmm. You know, like the Acclaimed first and foremost. I mean, they were two guys who were put together as a tag team. They weren't a tag team before. They were put together as a tag team. They gelled. They made things work, and they organically got over massively. And the whole scissor me daddy ass thing is just insane. The reactions they get every week get louder and louder and louder. I'm a big fan of the Acclaimed's work, and I think the Acclaimed is the breakout act of 2022. I also got to put Sami Zayn in that conversation, and you know, I also too Jamie Hayter. She totally fits in that because she did that organically as well. I don't think there was like a plan design to get her over, but she got over on her own.
I'd also throw Carmelo Hayes in that conversation. I think he's established himself as one of the top young acts in all of pro wrestling. Matt Riddle really had a great year, obviously going through some stuff right now, but he had a great year where he had that super hot tag team with Randy and then was kind of able to slither his way, no pun intended, out of it into a really nice spot and main evented a pay-per-view with Seth Rollins, who's always in the conversation for one of the best in the industry. Mandy Rose, even before, obviously she's no longer with WWE, but the Toxic Attraction stuff was really good. But I want to ask you about the Acclaimed here real quick, because you hit on some of those elements of what allowed them to break out. This is almost reminiscent to me, Matt, like, and I know people are going to come after me. Go ahead. The FIs are going to whatever. This feels like when DX was super hot and everyone in the crowd all so long is getting super in to everything that DX is doing. And it's by far the most engaging live element of every AEW show. Do you see any parallels there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and let the FIs come after you. Sometimes they just do. It is what it is. It's the world we live in now. The FIs are out there. Yeah, and especially the nostalgia of having badass Billy Gunn with him helps as well. So, yeah, I do think that the whole act of coming down, Max Caster rapping, Anthony Bowens hitting his line, Billy Gunn hitting his line, and then the scissor me daddy ass, and people are going crazy. They're making scissor signs in the crowd. And you know, like the scissoring thing, there was one point where they were told they shouldn't be doing that, but they still kept doing it. And then it got over organically on its own in the most incredibly huge way possible. So it really speaks volumes about them. And also, I love that they did it. It reminded me of when I was doing the V1 hand sign, and there was a point where Stephanie McMahon said, "You really shouldn't do that. That's never going to get over. I don't think you should do that, especially being a heel or whatever." And I still kept doing it, and obviously it worked, and it got over, and it's still around now. So good for them for sticking to their guns and still doing the scissor me daddy ass and doing the scissors thing, because it worked. And it was just something that is interactive with the audience, and they love it, and it's fun, and we need that. We need fun, interactive acts in pro wrestling.
What was her mentality behind telling you to quit with the V1?
I really don't know. But I was just doing it over and over. I mean, that was just that was like, I guess, her personal opinion. She said, I don't know, because we were doing a pre-tape or something. I said, "Hey, it's Matt Hardy V1 now," and then okay, well, Matt Hardy V1 now, we'll handle that. And you know, like you do stuff over and over to get it over. You know, to get it over, you have to do it kind of regularly. It has to be a motif in your act. But she's like, I don't know if I would do that, especially being a heel. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that works. But I knew still as a heel, you have to do things that the crowd enjoys you doing and something they can do and be interactive with.
Did she ever come around on that to you?
I know she later congratulated me for being so successful with that whole character and persona. So I guess so. I no specific interest, but you know, like she was good. And even my last run, like Stephanie and Hunter were always great. And always a big thing, like I've never even, I don't think I've mentioned this publicly, and but like they were two of the first people that texted us after our dad passed away too, which was so nice that they text both myself and Jeff, which was very kind at that time.
I've had one interaction in my life with Stephanie McMahon, and I cannot put over how nice and kind she was in it. She was very, very kind. So nothing but good things on my end to say about that. This is a true story on the scissoring end of things. That last wedding I had, my 13 weddings in 2022. The last one, the groom was a big wrestling fan, big time wrestling fan.
Right.
And listens to this podcast. Shout out to Matt Keegan. And
Matt Keegan!
he, at the end, the whole party's ended. Everyone's leaving. He goes, Jon Alba, come here for a second. He looks around. He goes, will you scissor me? And I said, I will happily scissor you. So his wife, who would have thought, doesn't enjoy doing the whole scissoring thing because wrestling's weird, Matt. I don't know if you've realized this. Wrestling's a little strange, but
I'm a little weird. I'm a little strange. Everybody who in this, you got to be half-ass fucked up to be a pro wrestler in the beginning, in the first place. So yes, I have realized this.
Just a little bit. But I was more than happy to indulge in a good post-wedding scissoring, if you will. So, yeah, I'm all in, man. I think the Acclaimed are great. Let's continue here. Let's talk about the best worker of 2022. That's like a big badge of honor these days in wrestling, Matt Hardy. You got to be looked at as a true ring technician, and you got to be able to go. So many names come to mind for me. The Bryan Danielsons, the Will Ospreays, Wheeler Yuta had a great year. Daniel Garcia, one of my personal favorites, Speedball Mike Bailey. But I have a different person in mind for this year. I would love to hear who comes to mind for you for the best worker of 2022.
I haven't got to see all of his stuff, but I was looking through some of the, just some of the best matches and trying to do a recap before we did this. And I might have to go with Will Ospreay.
You're going with Will Ospreay, okay?
Yeah, especially, he came to AEW. He killed it in the couple shots he had. The Wrestle Kingdom match against Okada was incredible. He was just a solid in-ring worker all throughout the year and just working all throughout the year. Also, I got a lot of love for Jon Moxley. I feel like he's like the heart and soul of AEW in many ways. Even when he was supposed to be gone away on vacation, he stuck around and he kind of towed the line and he carried AEW through some tough and challenging weeks. So I think that also has to be noticed as well.
Yeah. Moxley is not a guy that comes to mind for me immediately when I think like the best workers in pro wrestling. He's so, I hate using buzz terms like this, but his ring psychology is amazing. And he's every move he has thought and purpose behind it. And I appreciate the hell out of that, but he's not as flashy per se as some of the Jonathan Gresham types. Yeah. He's not a technician in that sense. So what makes him such a great worker, Matt?
I just think it's the fact that you put him in spots where he has to deliver, and he does deliver. Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately what a great worker is. It's changed a little bit just because of the internet and because like star ratings have become such a thing now, and like there's so many people who live to get those 5-star matches or whatever it may be, and that's typically what you think about now, or the more modernized wrestling fans think of when they think of great worker. But also when you think of great worker, someone who can go out and have a great match and also deliver from a character perspective, a promo perspective, and an angle perspective. I also think that definitely defines a great worker. And that's the perspective I'm coming from when I throw Jon Moxley in that conversation.
So many that come to mind as well. You have to always Seth Rollins is always in that conversation as
always, yeah.
A legit 5-star match in the cell with Cody Rhodes this year, and he was a big part of that. Yes. No doubt about that. Two names in particular, I've got a tie here for this, and I really put a lot of thought into this. You know how much I love Speedball Mike Bailey. He just comes on the outside. I think Speedball Mike Bailey, if you haven't checked out his work, Matt, I'll send you some links. He had one of the most unbelievable years in pro wrestling. But two names in particular.
I saw his match with Dax at WrestleCade, and they killed it there. They went like almost to a draw, and Dax beat him at 1 second before the
1959 in a 20-minute time limit match, which was amazing. Dax Harwood is one of mine. I think it has been one of the coolest things seeing Dax Harwood have the year, because we always knew Dax was an amazing tag team wrestler.
Sure.
But seeing him have the caliber of matches he had as a singles act this year, him and Bryan Danielson mixing it up in an AEW ring, the indie matches we've seen him be able to have, and he continues to deliver from a tag team standpoint as he always does. I think he's one of the smartest pro wrestling minds in the world. And I'm so grateful that he has joined us here on the Podcast Heat Network with our pal Matt Kuhn with his podcast, FTR with Dax Harwood. Go check that out. The premiere episode just dropped this week.
What a great debut he had too, huh?
Yeah, big time episode talking about CM Punk. Go check that out. And his co-winner for me, I don't know how much you've watched of him, but I think he's one of the greatest workers of this era is the walking weapon, Josh Alexander in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not really up on his work, but I do know people speak of him in very high regard.
He feels like, and I'm not saying this just because he wears a singlet when he wrestles. He feels like the closest thing I've ever seen to Kurt Angle in a ring, which is quite a high praise there.
Yes,
especially for me, where Kurt is like top of the game for me. Josh is unbelievable. And I'm glad he's having the run he's having with Impact. I hope he gets a run in an even bigger company at some point down the line because he deserves it. He's outstanding. The best part is pro wrestling has never been healthier in terms of the quality of workers. And that's a good
indeed. Yeah.
As far as I see it there. All right. We got 2 match of the years to go through. We've got the overall match of the year and the Hardy match of the year. So let's start with the Hardy match of the year. Your favorite match that you had in 2022. Let's throw some out before you give us the winner, Matt. What are some honorable mentions, perhaps?
Oh boy, let me go back. A match that personally I was a big fan of was the 8-man tag we had with myself and Jeff, Sting, and Darby Allin versus Private Party, Butcher and Blade. That was in Austin. We were just in that venue, and it's funny. I walked out by the merchandise stand wherever Jeff jumped off the windowsill there and
for real
put people. Yeah. Unreal. Indeed. So I was a big fan of that match. I also enjoyed the match we had with Private Party. And I know those guys dug it that we got to have it on a big time Dynamite show. So that was a lot of fun, but overall, I would say my favorite match that we had was our match versus the Bucks at Double or Nothing 2022. I really enjoyed that match, and it's just very unfortunate things that happened with Jeff. Hopefully it's something that he is going to make into a positive, and he's going to turn everything around in his life, and he can come back and be better. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. But, we were scheduled to do all kinds of things during that summer, and it really sent me down a big path of detour, following that. But it is what it is, and it's pro wrestling where you have to adapt and change on the fly, and I've made the most of it and tried to do what I can. And I'm really enjoying this rivalry I'm in now with Ethan Page. So I'm looking forward to wrapping this up hopefully pretty soon.
Can you confirm for us, for once and for all here, were the Hardy Boys set to win the AEW World Tag Team titles should everything that happened not have happened?
Yeah, I think we were going to see the Hardys as the AEW World Tag Team Champions if Jeff didn't suffer that very unfortunate twist of fate.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those what ifs, and that's fine. That happens in the industry, and it makes you clamor for something more, and hopefully look forward to something down the line as well. I loved the build to that feud. I loved it. It started with the small subtle jabs. The Gangrel stuff we talked about was so great.
Yeah,
and them coming doing the retro Hardy stuff was super fun. And then there was that really serious promo that you cut with them, which I thought was excellent. And you especially, that was one of your strongest promos of the year.
Thank you.
And then the match was really fun at Double or Nothing, especially given the circumstances. We know Jeff got a little loopy there, and you got to kind of figure your way through it, and it ended up being really good. And I love watching you and the Bucks wrestle, but I'm going to be honest with you. A match that you didn't mention that truthfully was one of my favorites of yours this year was the Revolution 6-man tornado tag.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed that as well. That was
Darby, Sammy, Sting versus you, Andrade, and Isaiah.
Yeah.
Seeing Sting come off the platform in the upper deck, holy shit, what a moment. And you get to say that you had one of those wild Sting matches, which is super, super cool.
Yeah, indeed. And fighting our way through the crowd, pushing people out of the way with Sting was great fun too. So anytime Sting is just literally one of the greatest of all time. I mean, just an ultimate icon. So anytime you get to work with him, it's a pleasure. And that match was a really fun match. And sorry, I deleted that from my list there.
Can you believe, as we tape this, Matt, it is 25 years ago today. Starrcade 97, Hogan versus Sting.
Wow. Crazy.
One of the most wet fart in church endings you'll ever see at a pro wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
After the most incredible build ever. That I think, truthfully, altered the course of WCW history.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that match?
I mean, as you see in current, now modern pro wrestling, if you have great build up, that match has to pay off. And it has to be a very legitimate finish. And that match was a good example of, if you don't do a legitimate finish, if people have invested their time in your program and in this rivalry, then it's a bad thing if it doesn't pay off in the blow-off.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. But let's talk about the match of the year. So many promotions. I know you haven't seen every amazing match of the year candidate across the board, but I feel like you have a pretty good general way of breaking down what makes a match great. So what was your favorite match of 2022? And do any come to mind before you give us the winner that you really liked in any company?
Yeah, I mean, the first that come to mind are the Ring of Honor match, the dog collar match between the Briscoes and FTR. I really love the Anarchy in the Arena match, AW, and that was definitely like right down my avenue.
Oh yeah,
because it's more of a gimmicky match. I love that stuff too, especially when it's done right.
It was so well done. It was so well done.
So well done. Once again, a match that I did catch was Ospreay and Okada from Wrestle Kingdom, which was a fantastic match. The last couple of weeks, some of the Elite versus the Death Triangle matches have been absolutely outstanding.
Oh, very good.
They're having a killer series. But I think if I have to choose one of that series, I would go with FTR, who are just having a phenomenal year. I can't say enough great things about how amazing of a year FTR's had in general. And Dax really has been killing because he's been doing so many singles as well. But FTR versus the Briscoes, and also it's no secret, I'm a big fan of the Briscoes, and I'm so glad that they were able to come to work with AEW/Ring of Honor and also win back the Ring of Honor tag team titles and kind of given some flowers again. I think they've paid their penance as well. So I love that match, and I'm so glad that the Briscoes got a moment to shine as champions at the end of it.
That trilogy between FTR and Briscoes is going to go down as one of the greatest trilogies ever in tag team wrestling. They had 3 5-star matches this year, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Others that come to mind for me, Cody versus Seth in the Cell.
Oh my God. And how can I leave that one out?
Yeah.
That one, and people were so emotionally invested in that because you could, literally see Cody's brutal injury with that torn pec. And I thought that was so ballsy, and I applaud whoever made the decision, that Cody won that match. I thought that was great. That was amazing.
That was like the most Dusty Rhodes thing that Cody has ever done in his career. Yeah. And it was
that was great. I did see that match, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think every match you mentioned is absolutely up there for me. Okada and Ospreay. Honestly, that wasn't my favorite Will Ospreay match of the year. My favorite Will Ospreay match of the year was that Forbidden Door with him and Orange Cassidy.
Oh, okay.
I thought that match was the best example of 2 wrestlers playing their roles perfectly in a match. And you and I have talked about Orange Cassidy in the past, where he's so unique in that you build a match around his comeback, and that his near falls are going to be unbelievable. Right. They're going to be unlike any other pro wrestler out there just because of the nature of his character. Mm-hmm. So for him to have that match, it's just insane. I mean, the most insane match I saw this year was your brother and Darby Allin, which was
yeah.
I mean, your face at the end of that match, where you're raising Jeff's hand, it's like a legit. I don't think you were selling. I think that was just a legit, just what the hell did we just watch, kind of thing. That was how surreal was that in person, seeing that?
It was wild. I mean, and kudos to those 2 guys. They knew it was kind of like a one-off, And, I think in the big scheme of things, they would have loved to have a little program and like build to something and do it the right way. But they went out with the time they were allotted, and they gave the people just what they wanted to see, an insane match between crazy ass Darby Allin and Mas Loco Jeff Hardy. So they went nuts.
You have to be fairly wild to be considered to be in the same prism of Jeff Hardy as far as what you are willing to do.
Yeah.
And Darby Allin fits in that category.
Without a doubt.
Two legitimate stuntmen.
That's what they do. They're stuntmen / pro wrestlers. With stuntmen first.
I think I'm going with just because of the circumstances. I think I enjoyed, as a wrestling match, more the dog collar match. I think it's one of the best tag team matches I've ever seen.
Right.
But because of the circumstances, I think I have to go with Cody and Seth in the cell.
Yeah.
And just the visuals.
I get that. I mean, that could be my best match of the year too.
Easily. Especially
because just the storytelling was so great in it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, again, one of the best of the year. That's what we're talking about here in the Hardy Awards 2022, the best of the best. And Matt Hardy, my sister and brother-in-law this past weekend, they reiterated to me that our partner, Jimmy's Famous Seafood, is truly the best of the best.
The best of the best.
Because for the holidays, I got them the Triple D combo box on jimmysfamousseafood.com, which was full of crab cakes, soup, oysters, and I used that promo code Hardy, and it was unbelievable. I didn't get to have any. They got to have it. I should have smarted myself up and ordered some for myself, but that's what you can do by going to jimmysfamousseafood.com. They ship food nationwide, and with free 2-day nationwide shipping on orders over $125, as long as you use that promo code Hardy. Matt, this is the perfect way to get your New Year's fix, is it not?
It certainly is. And I gave out some Jimmy's Seafood for Christmas as well, and it is the way to go. Put in that little Hardy code, it's a winner.
Oh, my goodness. Crab cakes, soups, chowders, oysters, signature steaks, desserts. If you want to go for more of a football feel, the NFL season is wrapping up. We're in bowl season right now. Yeah. You can go with their tailgate bundle with 2 pounds of wings, a full rack of ribs, a pint of crab dip. Crab dip is like my favorite thing in the world.
Oh, my God.
Crab cake mix. You can create your own package. I sound like a whore for seafood when I'm plugging this stuff. And it's because I am. And I will recommend to, I know you, we have one rule: no whores allowed unless it's for Jimmy's Famous Seafood.
Exactly.
On the podcast. that is the only time that the whores are allowed on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. And with Jimmy's Famous Seafood, man, you just go to the website, jimmysfamousseafood.com, use that promo code Hardy. Imagine this, man. I'm going to paint the scenario for you. It's New Year's Eve. Got a nice bottle of perhaps some Veuve champagne. I don't know what Rebby likes. Is she a champagne drinker?
Yeah, she's okay with champagne.
I know she's not a big drinker in general.
Yeah.
But, that's the holidays. You indulge in something. Nice bottle of champagne. Got some crab cakes. Got some turf because you cooked up a nice steak courtesy Jimmy's Famous Seafood. This is what's up, brother, is it not?
It is what's up. And the best thing about it is you don't have to go to Baltimore to have Jimmy's Seafood. Jimmy's Seafood in Baltimore will come to you.
Yes.
You can order it, and they'll send you everything. It's unreal. It's unbelievable.
Jimmy'sFamousSeafood.com. Use that promo code Hardy, and we thank them for sponsoring the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You and I are going to have to make a trip down to Baltimore at some point. Maybe we'll do a live show at Jimmy's Famous Seafood and thank them personally for sponsoring our podcast.
Thank you, Jimmy Seafood, and thank you, John. Much love for you. And go UNC, go Tar Heels. That's also, I don't know if you know that, John, the owner, is a big Tar Heels fan, so we share that bond as well.
Worked out. Okay, again, as I said, I'm low-key a Duke fan, but we're not going to talk about that here.
Okay.
Let's talk about, though, the tag team of the year. Matt Hardy, we got a few more categories here to get through. Tag team of the year. 2022, an amazing year for tag team wrestling.
Yes.
There were some across the board incredible tag teams that I really want to give flowers to. Who are some teams that come to mind for you?
Jesus Christ. It really has. I mean, has tag team wrestling ever been greater?
It's awesome
than it is currently. It really is. I mean, just, right off the jump, an FTR stands out. The Briscoes stand out, especially with their trilogy of matches. You have to put Usos in that conversation. I love the Acclaim, how they became such a mainstream breakout act in 2022. I mean, there's so many great. Aussie Open was really good as well. I mean, there's so many great tag teams out there. I mean, and once again, the Young Bucks. I'm very high on the Young Bucks. They're great. The Lucha Bros, you can't leave them out of the conversation as well. But I think when it's all said and done, if I have to really highlight one tag team as the best tag team, the standout tag team 2022, I gotta give the Usos their flowers, man.
You feel a little Usi this year, huh?
Well, Usi, they had that long run with the titles too, man. I mean, tag team wrestling has just been remarkable in 2022, and I love that so much. But yeah, I will give the Usos, and they played a very prominent line in a prominent role in the bloodline. So I'm going to go with the Usos, man.
I want to talk about the Usos then, because they are a team that everyone recognizes are outstanding. I mean, they really are outstanding. But one of the common criticisms of their matches from fans, because I'm on Twitter all the time, is that their matches are all generally constructed in pretty much the same way. And you're going to get a bunch of the super kicks. They added the 3D, the 1D, if you will, to their arsenal in the past year and a half or so. But a lot of people feel like their matches follow a pretty similar pattern. What's your assessment of them in that regard as somebody who has been in a ring with them?
First thing, I want to backtrack. You mean Twitter actually criticizes people sometimes?
I know, right? Crazy. You should see Reddit, pal.
I'll just stick with Twitter. That's enough. Yeah. I get my status quo there. Yeah, I don't know. Once again, I'm okay with that. If you have a formula that you kind of work around, and I do get it that more modern fans, especially the more diehard fans, they like when people switch it up. But I love what they're doing. I love their act. I think the Bloodline act is great, and I have worked with them. And at the end of the day, pro wrestling is pro wrestling, and like you're going to have so many moves that you establish, and that's like your money. That people want to see those moves. They want to see you break that out. For me, it would always be, the leg drop, off the top, or the second after my, pelvis started becoming destroyed. The twist of fate, the side effect, whatever it may be. There's these things. And there's also guys like the Young Bucks who have all these signature things they do. Also, they're big super hit guys. But, the secret is just trying to place those things in different places and trying to switch up the formula and whatnot. And I can get why some people may say the Usos are a little formulaic, and they might want to see something be switched up a little bit. But I'm okay with that in the big scheme of things. I think people like them. They respect them as champions, and they're just a great, solid team. And they're very legitimate. They look like legitimate tough guys. They, the fans that are watching them, they look like they could whip somebody's ass if they're sitting in the front watching them, which is very important in pro wrestling as well. So I'm okay with that, even if that is a criticism. And I can see why that is a criticism, but to me, they stand on the top of the mountain as the tag team of 2022.
Yeah, there's so many great tag teams, and AEW alone does tag team wrestling so well in how they go about letting guys just go out there and have great, compelling matches.
Yeah, and once again, I would say, like the Young Bucks, I mean, they obviously ended up taking quite a long time off this year, which probably, hurt them in the running a little bit, but they're incredible. FTR is incredible and incredible in a different way. Briscoes are incredible once again in a different way, but these guys are all just like they're top of the food chain when it comes to tag team wrestling. So those guys are also candidates. And
I think you even have to include Swerve and Our Glory, a team that was just thrown together and found such great chemistry together.
Right.
You got the guy who's more the workhorse, and then you have Keith Lee, who is an amazing worker in his own right for his size, but he's still the brute that hits the big power moves, and a great dynamic for a tag team. That's exactly what you look for in a tag team. I think I have to go with FTR this year.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I could list them as the top tag team too.
Yeah,
FTR had an incredible year.
The Usos wrestled more matches than anybody in tag team wrestling this year, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. They wrestled a ton of house show matches, and every match is always good with them. I think they very much belong in that conversation. But FTR, It's like the thing that I always talk about with Springsteen. What makes him great for me is that every Springsteen concert is a different set list. You never know what you're gonna get. Which, when I watch pro wrestling, if a tag team or a wrestler, but a tag team specifically, can give me a different match every time out there,
Right.
and keeps me on my toes thinking, how's this one going to play out? And,
Right.
here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, we let it play out all the time.
We certainly do.
That's what gives FTR that upper edge for me, because every FTR match, which every one is great, at worst, an FTR match is good. but every match is so great, and I never know how it's going to be structured. I never know how it's going to play out. And that, to me, shows just how smart and studied these guys are. Just my take.
Just going to say, too, big shout out to Dax, too. Dax, every time you see him, whenever I go down to the gym in the hotel, whatever, if he's down there and he's doing cardio, he's watching wrestling. He is a true student of the game. Nobody watches more wrestling than he does, and big shout out to him for that.
He loves pro wrestling as much as anybody I've ever met. It's pretty, and you really love pro wrestling too. And I know, much to your wife's chagrin, that perhaps you love it too much in that sense. He also has one of the best mustaches in the game, which I always give a little shout out to. Lots of great tag teams. Imperium, Brawling Brutes were super fun this year. And and that brings us to the heel of the year. Let's talk about the heel of the year in pro wrestling. I'll throw one out there who I think flew under the radar as one of the most underrated talents in all of wrestling this year. Gunta, the former Walter.
Yeah.
Him and Imperium. He and Sheamus had a legit 5-star match at that.
Oh, yeah. I got to see some of that too.
Holy shit, what a match that was. Yeah. And seeing Sheamus get longevity because of a guy like him is awesome.
Right.
And man, I think Gunta had one of the best years as a heel. I think Matt Cardona is such an amazing heel in pro wrestling.
Yeah. Big fan of what Matt Cardona's doing now.
Oh, I know you are. Do you think Matt Cardona ends up signed in 2023 by a major company? With all due respect to Impact Wrestling and all of that, I'm talking one of the two major players.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. So who are you going with for heel of the year, Matt Hardy?
I do love the stuff Matt Cardona's done, and the way he plays, plays the role of, like, he's beloved and he's like the biggest babyface in wrestling, but yet he's the king of the death match and everything else, but really low key heel and a great heel. I do. I love what he's done. But once again, you can't deny this guy's year. I got to go with MJF.
More so than Roman?
Is the heel of the year. Yeah, I think more so than Roman, because I think Roman being a heel has also turned him cool to a lot of people, and he's going to have a big babyface run when it's all said and done. MJF obviously is very popular because people are invested in his character, but still, people would rather boo him than cheer him. I think people would rather boo MJF than cheer him, and I think with Roman, I think they would. It's a little more on the fence. It's a little more of a level playing field.
I think that's fair. I think that's a totally fair assessment in that regard. I think Bayley is one of the best heels in wrestling.
Yeah. She's doing a lot of fun stuff.
She's always super, super great. Just some that come to mind for me across all of indie wrestling. Got to give him his credit. Jeff Jarrett had an amazing year as a heel.
He did.
Amazing year as a heel.
He really did. That's undeniable.
Jeff Jarrett performed for every major company this year.
Insane.
What a year. What a year for him. So I don't think I can disagree with you, Matt. I think MJF is the runaway. Even with him missing about half the year, you still think so?
No, yeah. I mean, I do. I almost think him walking out, as controversial as it was, it kind of added to his character in many ways. Like, what a dickhead this guy is. And it was a dickhead move, and I think it added, fuel to the fire when it comes to, his heeldom in many, many ways. And just the way he would constantly talk about 2024 and the bidding war and that he's going to leave, just like, that is, blasphemy to the AEW fans. So I think he is heel of the year.
In your opinion, does he ever push it too far?
Probably a little too much WWE banter.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But you don't think he pushes like the low blows, not the physical low blows. I mean the verbal low blows.
No,
And
not
no,
really. And two, like,
I
I'm
don't, for the record. I'm curious
yeah,
because that is a
yeah,
common complaint.
yeah. No, I don't. I mean, once again, like, pro wrestling is pro wrestling. You have to be a lot more careful considering today's society and just how, people are just a lot more sensitive. I mean, you're almost forced to be more sensitive, and in some ways that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, pro wrestling is pro wrestling, and we have guys that are going out trying to get reactions of boos or trying to get people to dislike them, and we can't forget that. And I'm okay with it. No, I don't think he takes too many
Sure.
awards.
Okay, it's more than fair. Let's move on to our babyface of the year. Who's your best babyface in wrestling? As far as names that come to mind for me, Jon Moxley,
Yeah.
immediately right towards the top of that list. Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, now that she's a babyface, always somebody that people are going to cheer for. Ricky Starks had an amazing year once he turned.
Right.
Lots of good quality baby faces out there in pro wrestling. And by the way, I want to say real quick, heel of the year, I do want to give flowers as well to Chris Jericho, who I thought was an outstanding heel this year and really had one of the best years of his career, quite frankly, from a character and in-ring standpoint. So I do want to
very true
in there. But yeah, babyface of the year, Jungle Boy is a great babyface. What comes to mind for you, man?
I feel like I almost have two. I got to shout both these
Okay.
guys. I am going to go with Jon Moxley. Once again, I think Jon Moxley is the heart and soul of AEW. And I think he's done just such a tremendous job this year, representing all elite wrestling. So it's Jon Moxley. He really stepped up when someone needed to carry the company in a tough scenario, and he did. And he's just a very real guy. I think he's the closest thing you're going to get in 2022 to like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, the working man who just goes out and spits hard truths and then whips ass. So I'm a big fan of Jon Moxley for that. And also, you can't deny Cody Rhodes and what he did. Going to WWE was a huge thing. Jumping from AEW to WWE, which is a positive for the business. I think it puts a lot more focus just on the business in general, and it makes the business exciting in some ways. But his run there, until he unfortunately got hurt, was just phenomenal. And that trilogy he had with Seth Rollins was great, and how he won every match. And he's leaving because his pec is literally, you can see it. You can see the physical damage and how badly he's hurt with the bruising and the tear. And he goes out and has this great Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins and wins, and then leaves to go get surgery. He definitely really stands out as the top babyface of the year as well.
I'll tell you, man, he is one of those guys where obviously it sucked for him to have to wrestle like that. Yeah. But I think deep down, he loves nothing more. 100% visual of being able to show
knowing Cody as much as I did, if he was able to get through it and they were going to allow him to get through it, he was all in. I guarantee he was all in.
Yeah. I think Cody definitely is in that conversation. You got to throw Hangman Page in that conversation. He's always in there for me. Unfortunately, this year I didn't feel this year was as strong to Hangman as 2021 was, which is unfortunate because I liked his matches. I thought he always is an intriguing character to watch on television. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, I
agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm not really sure what it was, but for whatever reason, that was the case for me. Josh Alexander's up there for me. That's a tough pick, but I think I'm probably in agreement with you on Cody. I think Cody, ironically, coming off of how hated he was in AEW in his exit, right? Why do you think people hated Cody so much in those dying days there for him in AEW?
He was just a very polarizing figure, and he will be. I mean, he'll probably end up at some point once. He had that new honeymoon stage, when he was at WWE and he had that great run. But once he comes back and he gets another big push and he's the big baby face and ultimately ends up being the guy, he'll once again get that as well. That's just how wrestling fans are. Like, nothing can be pushed for too long without fans half-ass turning on it. I mean, it's just that's the world we live in this day and age. People are very jaded, very fickle.
3 more, Matt Hardy, and then we'll wrap it up here. Let's go with the Women's Wrestler of the Year. Who you got?
Ooh. Who do you have here in the running?
I think you include Britt Baker in the running. You include Jamie Hayter in the running. You include Thunder Rosa in the running. You include Tony Storm in the running. Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan. Even though Becky Lynch was hurt for a lot of the year, I'm still including her in it.
Right.
I think that's probably your Deonna Purrazzo I'm throwing in there as well, and Chelsea Green. They both really had great years in Impact. I think that's probably my short list of 9 off the top of my head.
Okay. I almost feel like I have a 2-part answer to this question as well after thinking about it. First off, I think Jamie Hayter really organically got over, which I'm a big fan of, and then her ultimately being crowned the women's champion, I thought was a great deal. So I really like Jamie Hayter's year, and I think you got to throw Mandy Rose in that conversation too.
Mandy Rose, absolutely, yeah. 100%.
Even though she's no longer there, I mean, she was champion for a year,
long time,
and she delivered, and like she has come so far as a performer and as a pro wrestler. So I mean, I would probably list Mandy Rose first.
Yeah, okay, you're going with Mandy Rose.
Is Jamie Hayter?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to fight you on that. She had an outstanding year on NXT. It's crazy she didn't even come to mind for me because of just the nature of how everything happened. But yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And also, it's a little low key. I mean, it's almost like Impact. It flies under the radar in many ways. NXT flies under the radar in many ways. I mean, I think when you think of best ofs, I mean, you immediately go to AEW and WWE.
Yeah. I do want to give. That's why I said Deonna Purrazzo.
Yeah,
in particular, I think Deonna's amazing, and I think WWE missed so badly on her. But I think I'm going with Bianca Belair.
Yeah,
just consistently one of the strongest pushed acts. She and Becky Lynch had 2 incredible matches at WrestleMania and then SummerSlam, and she continues to stay extremely organically over. So I think I got to go with Bianca Belair. She is legit building a resume as an all-time great, and I think that's real. And she's one of those people that, especially kids, they just connect with. She's like a female John Cena.
She's very special.
They really connect with her. All right, 2 more, Matt. Let's get to it. The WWE Wrestler of the Year. We've talked ad nauseum about all these different nominees: the Seth Rollins, the Codys, the Roman Reigns, the Gunttas, the Drew McIntyres, the Bianca Belairs. Who are you going with?
Oh, man. I know he hasn't wrestled a lot, but his just work has been superior, has been above and beyond. And him heading the Bloodline, turning it into the main event act, you know, they really are the franchise of the WWE. I got to go with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the franchise player. He's just the nucleus of WWE right now, and he's just done a tremendous job with it.
There are going to be people who disagree with that because of how few times he has wrestled, but you could also make the argument that every time he wrestles feels like a pretty big occasion, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it almost feels reminiscent of back in the day when I was growing up and, you know, a big fan when I first got hooked on wrestling, and Hulk Hogan, his wrestling appearances were so limited, you know, on TV anyway. That's kind of what this feels like with Roman Reigns. Like, if you're seeing him, it's a special big moment.
I did get a little tired of how every Roman Reigns match was pretty much ending the same way. But I do think now that we've seen the characters in the Bloodline develop a little more, like they had that outstanding War Games match where we saw the vulnerability in Roman Reigns a little more. And like, if someone's going to be beating Roman Reigns at this point in the next few months, you got to start showing that vulnerability in him. So I think that is a great element to add. I can't disagree with you. Roman Reigns is the franchise, as you said. If I had to put a number 2, it's probably Seth Rollins, who just, again, I mean, night in and night out, he's the most complete performer that they have.
Mega consistent. Who do you think defeats Roman Reigns? I'm gonna go with Cody, man.
I think it is probably Cody. The story is there. At one point, I really wanted it to be Kevin Owens, and I really thought the story was there to tell it with Kevin Owens, where he's almost this Dusty Rhodes kind of common man, and I thought it could have been really special. But you do have Cody there for the taking. His quest, I mean, his night after WrestleMania debut promo, he put Dusty up there with the bell, was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spell it out for the fans, you got to deliver on it, I understand, as we've talked about.
We don't want Sting Hogan from Starrcade.
No, we certainly do not. I understand the allure of wanting to do Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania. It is the biggest match that you can do in that sense. We both agree it doesn't need to be for the title, but I think Cody beating Roman Reigns for the championship is the move. But you could also make an argument that Sami Zayn should beat him. You could make the argument, and I would listen to those arguments given how that story has played out. You could make the argument that Seth Rollins should beat him. There are a lot of different paths you could take, but I think Cody is. Yeah. AEW Wrestler of the Year, our final Hardy Award of 2022. Lots of candidates here. It feels surreal, and it's not his fault. He was hurt for so long, and then the suspension, but that Kenny Omega is probably not in the conversation for it this year, given everything. But
that's wild, right?
Got one of the best wrestlers in the world in Kenny Omega here. AEW Wrestler of the Year, CM Punk, MJF, Chris Jericho. Man, just top guy after top guy. We've seen several different main events. Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson. Who are you going with?
Once again, I got to go with the heart and soul of AEW with Jon Moxley, man. I just think it was Jon Moxley's year in 2022, kind of across the board. I just think he was the guy that AEW really put the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he delivered, and he made things happen.
I agree with you entirely. I think Jon Moxley was the franchise, as you said, for AEW, and with all the crazy twists and turns that AEW had this year, and boy, howdy, were there a lot.
Howdy were they.
The one consistent death taxes Jon Moxley.
Yes.
And I think it's quite a credit to him that Tony leaned on him as much as he did to carry the company through some of those hurdles.
Indeed.
So, I think that's a big credit to him. Matt, I got one last question for you as we wrap up here. Give me your breakout stars for 2023 for AEW and WWE. Who are two talent, men or women, that you see breaking out for each company in 2023?
Oh boy. Okay. Interesting.
Putting you on the spot here. I know we didn't talk about
that. I think Sami Zayn is going to be a breakout star to another level.
Yeah, you think he becomes like a main event guy?
This year. Yeah. I just think with his performances all this year. When it comes to AEW, wow, there's a lot of candidates in this conversation as well that could have a breakout year and just become something huge over the course of the next little bit. I think one person who's really going to break out, who has just started now, is the young man who just beat Chris Jericho. Have you been paying attention?
Action Andrade, you're all about it?
Action Andrade. I think he's going to have a big year in 2023. I really, really do. I think when your first match out is against Chris Jericho and it's already competitive, but then you end up upsetting him and winning, I think that leaves a huge door for you to have a big year.
Okay.
It leaves a huge door open. So I think he's going to stand out a lot. And then there's so many guys. I think Swerve could be a big breakout singles guy over the course of the next year and go to a new level that he hasn't been at yet. I still think there can continue to be tweaks on Orange Cassidy's character, and I think he'll become more of a real person and kind of incorporate more of a real person. You almost have to do that, like once you're such a gimmick. I think Orange Cassidy
vulnerability.
Yeah, I think Orange Cassidy's going to have the big 2023. I mean, there's several guys in that conversation.
Yeah. I think Ricky Starks is the guy.
Oh yeah, Ricky Starks, 100% in the conversation. How did I not mention?
I think Ricky Starks is knocking on the door of something very special.
Yes, Ricky Starks, indeed.
Especially if Max is your heel champion through most of the year next year, which I do think will be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky coming back and being the guy that eventually defeats Max, I think could be a very compelling story.
Yes, yeah. Especially being a homegrown AEW talent.
WWE wise, I'm biased, but I'm going with Carmelo Hayes. I think Carmelo Hayes is. I was talking to someone in WWE recently, and they told me they see him as the next Seth Rollins in WWE. So that should tell you how high some people view him.
Yeah,
back there. So, yeah, huge compliment, man. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for such a great year. Thank you to all our fans. This has been the most fulfilling year of my life project wise, and getting to do this with you has just been nothing but incredible. So
it's been a blast, John. It's been so much fun. I look forward to doing this every single week with you. So
me too. And next week we are going to look back at a year of the extreme life of Matt Hardy and get a chance to relive some of our favorite episodes, and maybe we'll even pop up a few clips from a few episodes too and talk about the wild year that it has been. Anything else you'd like to add here? I know you got to get over to Dynamite and get ready to go there out in Colorado. Anything you want to add here as people ring in 2023?
I just want to wish everyone a happy new year. And I hope everyone had a nice Christmas. And once again, I will say this ad nauseum. Like, thank you so much for supporting myself and John. We really appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. And let's make 2023 a great year altogether.
I think 2023 is a breakout year for the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Personally,
yes,
this is my take on that. The words have been spoken. We'll see you in the new year right here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
My skin's dying because you're under it. I'm done lying to myself for this, for all the wondering, believing that it's making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as obsolete. My skin's dying. I'm done lying.
But I feel strongly that saving money is important. You know, if it's not something we worry about now, boy, we are really going to worry about it later. And I want to help you get out of debt faster and do it with cheaper monthly payments. I'm talking to you if you're in a 30-year loan. Now is the time to take years off of your loan. We're routinely helping our listeners cut 5, 10, even 15 years off their loan. And you can do this without perfect credit with no money out of pocket. You've just got to start at SaveWithConrad.com.